1 says make a conjecture about the next term in this sequence. You have 5, -10, 20, -40. So if you notice, every single time you're multiplying by a -2. -10 times -2 is a +20. 20 times -2 is a -40. So if you continue with that trend, -40 times a -2 would give you a +80. Number 2 says if Mn equals Np, then N is a midpoint of Np. Find a counterexample. So what I'm going to do is draw a triangle. Call this MNNP. Okay, it tells me Mn is equal to Np. Here you can tell that N is not the midpoint of Np. Our counterexample would be this isosceles triangle. All right. Number 3, what is the truth value of the following statement? The square root of 25 is greater than -5, or 3 is less than or equal to 3. Okay, so for this one, the square root of 25 is greater than -5. That is going to be, that's false. Or 3 is less than or equal to 3. That is true. This is an or statement, so remember the only time or is false is when both are false. In this case, these two are not both false, so this statement will be true. Number 4, suppose P is true and Q is false. What is the truth value of the conjunction not P and not Q? So we know P is true. If this is not P, then this is false. You still have your and statement. This is not Q, so if Q is false, not Q would be true. Remember, this is and. The only time and is true is when both are true. In this case, this is not, both of these are not true, so this whole truth value would be false. Number 5, write the statement all chickens have 2 wings in if-then form. So we can have if an animal is a chicken, then it has 2 wings. All right, number 6, identify the conclusion of the statement. If you live in Chicago, then you live in Illinois. So your conclusion is the statement that comes after then. And so your conclusion would be, you live in Illinois. Number 7, write the inverse of the statement. If 2 lines are parallel to a third line, then they are parallel to each other. So remember, inverse means that you are negating it. So if 2 lines are not parallel to a third line, then they are not parallel to each other. To each other. All right, number 8 says use the law of detachment to write a valid conclusion for the given information. So it says if a football team wins the Big Ten championship, then they will play in the Rose Bowl. Ohio State wins the Big Ten championship. So remember, for law of detachment, you're focusing on the hypothesis. So a football team wins the Big 10 championship. So you have to have the hypothesis Ohio State wins the big championship. So what you can conclude is that Ohio State will play in the Rose Bowl. Okay, remember, if they gave you here that Ohio State plays in the Rose Bowl, you cannot conclude anything because that's the conclusion. Your hypothesis, they have to give you the hypothesis. These two have to match in order to have a valid conclusion. Okay, number 9. Use the law of syllogism to write a valid conclusion for the given information. If today is Thursday, then Amy is off from work. If Amy is off from work, then she will go to the gym to work out. So remember, you're looking for your middleman right here. Amy is off from work. Amy is off from work. So you pretty much ignore the middleman and write your sentence. So if today is Thursday, then Amy will go to the gym. Go to the gym to work out. All right, last one on this page. So the name of the operation that transforms 4x minus 2 is equal to 7x plus 7 to 4x is equal to 7x plus 9. Then we're going to find the value of x. So if you notice, what they did is they had to add 2 to both sides. So they added 2 here and added 2 here. That's how they got these 2 to go away to get your 4x, and that's how they got 9. 7 plus 2 gives you your 9. So the operation that allowed us to do this was your addition property of equality. And so what you're left with was 4x is equal to 7x plus 9. Okay, so to solve for x, you have to subtract 7 from both sides. There's your 0 pair. 4 minus 7 is a negative 3. And then you divide both sides by a negative 3. So you end up with x is equal to negative 3. Okay? All right, let's see. Let's go to the next page. Okay, number 11. Complete the proof by supplying the missing information. If x divided by 3 plus 1 equals negative 4, then x is equal to negative 15. So they already give you your given. You can see that they got rid of the 1 by subtracting both sides. That's your subtraction property. Then they substituted in because you're simplifying. So if you look here on the fourth one, we have to give the reason that they're allowed to multiply both sides by 3. And that's just your multiplication. Multiplication property of equality. And then the last little step, okay, they just simplified it, and so that's your substitution. All right, number 12 says if measure of angle 1 equals 5x plus 20, measure of angle 2 is equal to 3x plus 80, find the measure of angle 1. So if you look over here at your picture, okay, angle 1 and angle 2, they make your little bow tie angles, which are called vertical angles. And you know from your vertical angle theorem that if you have a pair of vertical angles, they are congruent. So what we know is that the measure of angle 1 is equal to the measure of angle 2. So we can plug in 5x plus 20 is equal to 3x plus 80. Okay, we're going to get our x's on the same side. So if I subtract 3x and subtract 3x, you are left with 2x plus 20 is equal to 80. So 2x is equal to 60. X is equal to 30. Now be careful because a lot of y'all like to stop and say the answer is 30. That's not what the question's asking for. It's asking for the measure of angle 1. So the measure of angle 1 is equal to 5 times 30 plus 20. So whenever you do 5 times 30 and add 20, you will get 170 degrees. Also, you can check this. You can plug in x equals 30 for the measure of angle 2. And if that doesn't come out to 170 degrees, you know you did something wrong because these two measurements should be equal to each other. All right, next one. So for these next two, we're going to fill in our proof. It says, given BD bisects angle ABC. So that's our given. 1 and 3 are complements of each other. 2 and 4 are complements of each other. Those are given. Okay, so now we have to give the reason why is angle 3 congruent to angle 4. Well, if you look, BD says bisects angle ABC, so we know these two angles right here are congruent, and that's your definition of an angle bisector. So angle bisector. And then angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. This is your congruence complements theorem. Okay, the next little section, we just have to name definition, property, postulate, whichever it is that justifies each statement. So if x is the midpoint of ZW, if you need to draw out your picture to show that x is your midpoint of ZW, if it helps you to see this, then draw it out. Zx is congruent to xw. This right here is just your definition of midpoint. Okay, if AB equals CD, then CD equals AB. So that right there is your symmetric property. And because there's the equal sign, it's of equality. Okay, if PQ equals RS, then PQ plus AB is equal to RS plus AB. So if you notice on both sides, they are adding. So this is your addition property of equality. Okay, number 18, if AB is congruent to CD, CD is congruent to EF, then AB is congruent to EF. So it would really help if you label these. So here's A, here's B, here's B, here's C, then we're given A to C. So anytime you have that middleman that's gone, you go from A to B, B to C, and you end up with AC. You're transitioning. So this is your transitive property. There we go, transitive property of congruency. And I'm going to have to let my pen charge and make a part 2 because my pen is freezing on me. But it's of congruency because you have congruent symbols. This is just wonderful. Congruency. Let me write it out. Okay, well, it's congruency. So I'll make a part 2 after my pen charges.